beautiful song, right? Good afternoon, thank you, and welcome. My name is Penelope. It's so good to be with each of you this afternoon, and I'm so honored that we have here with us Bronkar Lee, and Bronkar Lee will be sharing not only music, but his enthusiasm for life, all right? Let me tell you a little bit about Bronkar. He has presented at over 5,000 live events for companies including Google, Facebook, you've heard of those, right? YouTube, Disney. He's appeared on The Tonight Show, in a Super Bowl commercial, and has a viral video with over 300 million views. Hello? He is passionate about helping people strengthen their communication skills to attract more of what they want, what they desire in life. And he believes that when people are able to communicate with confidence and clarity, we were talking about that earlier today, it amplifies the quality of life all around. I'm so honored to have my friend here, Bronkar Lee. Please welcome him to our community this afternoon. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
It's good to be
Good
here.
afternoon.
Yes.
Hey, let's try that again. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Now, isn't it fascinating that the way we speak changes the meaning of a word or words? I mean, the words that we speak are really important. The what we say is so important, but the how we say it is equally as important, yes or yes? Right? The way we speak, it's kind of like the way I look at sheet music. Reading sheet music is one thing, but when we play that music, we bring it to life. And it's the same thing with when we speak. How we speak matters. Why we speak matters. When we speak matters. And the inflection that we put on the words changes the meaning of the words. Now, just out of curiosity, by a show of hands, who loves music? Raise your hand. Yeah. Now, who has ever played music before? A musical instrument, sang, yeah, something. Now, who considers himself to be a proficient musician? Hey, we got actually one or two. Now, it's funny like that because my belief is that we're not all trained musicians, right? But we are all musical beings. We're hardwired for music. Our hearts beat in rhythm. We walk in rhythm. We talk in rhythm. Everything we do in life is music. And just because we're not formally trained doesn't mean that we all don't use music every day. Just the way that we organize our consonants and vowels is creating music. Every time you open your mouth, you're putting your sonic signature on the world. Now, for example, if we, I love the ability to use the human voice to communicate. Now, I want to do just a little improvisation just so you know that everything I'm doing here is alive and in this moment. It's fully present right here. Now, could I get just a word of inspiration from the audience? Go for it. That was a series of words. I like that. We could say go for it. I like that. I like that. Is there a single word that I could use for inspiration? Amazing. Amazing? That was a good, amazing, amazing, amazing. 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 Amazing, 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 amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing. That was a fantastic word too. That was a fantastic word. Now, how we speak matters. How we organize these consonants and vowels matter. And then the inflection that we put on it. You know, it's fascinating. If you were to take, a phrase like my friend here said, go for it. Now, if we were to take simply those words and say, go for it, and we were to simply inflect them, right, put the inflection in a different way and the melody in a different way, then it changes the complete meaning of that phrase. For example, go for it. 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 But just the music that we speak into it changes the difference, changes the meaning completely. And that fascinates me. So taking the words that we speak and the way that we organize them, but also inflecting them in different ways. Now, my passion is supporting people to communicate with clarity and confidence. I think that so many of our challenges in the world come from lack of communication or poor communication. And this skill can be deconstructed and broken down. It's actually not mystical. It's actually very basic when we can break it down and break it down into a systematic way to learn. Now, before we even think about what we're expressing outwardly with our sonic signature or our voice, the first thing we must all do is to get our minds right. Now, what I mean is where thoughts go, energy flows. And where energy flows, things grow. So what are you consciously planting in your mental garden every day? What seeds are you planting in your mental garden every morning when you wake up in the morning? Do you have the morning routine or ritual? An exercise that gets you into that headspace so that you're showing up and really expressing yourself and creating more of what you want in the world. Now, does anybody by show of hands have a word of the year or a phrase of the year? A couple people do, okay. Now there we go. Now my phrase of the year is intentional manifestation. Intentional manifestation. And in this intentional manifestation, what I like to do is I like to fire up my morning and I like to ignite or activate what I call our inner hotspot. Now I believe we all have this ability to fire up our inner hotspot, our own network. And I call it the Good Stuff Network, which is one of the companies that I founded is the Good Stuff Network. Yeah, hey, thanks. Now, the Good Stuff Network, it's basically a 5G network, but it's a little bit different than the cell tower. The 5Gs are something that you possess within you, and wherever you go, there you are. Now, the 5Gs are gratitude, growth, grace, giggles, and gift. Now, gratitude is one of those things where when we can get gratitatical or get into that grateful state of mind, suddenly that becomes contagious to the people around us. When we remember that yesterday's the past, tomorrow's the future, but today is the gift, that's why it's called the present. Gratitude, then growth. How are we expanding into today, into this moment with a growth mindset to consciously be reaching, stretching, and growing and becoming something more than we've ever been before? Grace. Extending space for grace for ourselves as well as others is such a powerful practice. Everybody is on their own unique journey in life. And when we can extend that grace outward, a lot of times that grace shows up inward as well. So gratitude, growth, grace, giggles. Giggles is all about summoning the silly, bringing a little bit of levity to life. It's so incredibly important to bring that levity, to bring that laughter. Laughter can move mountains, and it's contagious too. And then the fifth and final G, which is the gift. And I hope that today it's a reminder that you are the gift. Your unique story is a gift. Your unique existence is a gift. Your experience is a gift. Nobody has walked the exact walk that you have. And to show up and give your gift every single day because all of you are here to see exactly what it is that you need to see, hear what you need to hear, and remember your truth. Now, as we expand into this 5G network, there's a little thing that I created called the Oath of Opportunity. And the Oath of Opportunity is a way that I start every presentation or every concert or every day. And the Oath of Opportunity is, I've never been at this exact place, at this exact moment, as this exact version of myself before. Now, what would happen if today I gave myself permission to explore, to be curious, to experience old information from a new perspective, to receive new information with an open mind, and to be reminded of something I may have forgotten? And that is my Oath of Opportunity. And so I extend that into this moment here and invite you to hold that Oath of Opportunity on the forefront of your head and your heart for the next few minutes that we're spending together. Now, I am a full-time performer and speaker and artist, and so I travel a lot and I frequent a lot of airports. Now, one day I was standing in line at a coffee shop, and I noticed, because in life, it's not just about what you know, it's about what you notice. It can all kind of be summarized with the game I Spy. Anybody played I Spy? Right? I spy with my little eye, something black. You may be looking at this cover here. I spy with my little eye something shiny. You may be looking at the top of this glorious head. Right? But I spy with my little eye. Now, I have 2 young boys. They're 6 and 8, and we frequent road trips. And one day we were on a road trip and we were playing I Spy, which is a great technique to get your kids to, simmer down and focus. And I decided I wanted to take it to the next level. I said, collectively, we're going to spy with our little eye a yellow Jeep. Yellow Jeeps are not very common, and I knew this because this was going to captivate my boys for a long time. So I said, we're going to look for a yellow Jeep, okay? Well, 5 minutes goes by, no yellow Jeeps. 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. We're getting off the freeway, and then in my rearview mirror, I see it. I turn around, I say, boys, look behind us. And in unison, they turned around and they say, oh, it's a yellow Jeep. Now, in that moment, we celebrated. We erupted with laughter and excitement for this yellow Jeep. But the deal is had we not been playing I Spy, the yellow Jeep would have come and gone and we never would have noticed it. But it's not what you know, it's what you notice. So what are you putting on the forefront of your mental search engine? What are you searching for? What are you spying with your little eye every day? Just like when you open your browser on your computer and you type a query and you're going to get the answers to the questions that you ask, the same thing happens with your mental search engine. What are you putting on the forefront of your mental search engine every day? What are you spying with your little eye? Because that is going to show up more and more and more. So I'm at the coffee shop at the airport, and I notice in the line that the gentleman behind me is a little angsty. He's a little upset because the line is a little long, and he's got a flight to catch. And then I noticed that more people in line were a little angsty too. This was kind of a collective consciousness that was happening in this line. So I had an idea. When I finally got up to the front, I looked at the barista and I said, Wendy, good morning, Wendy. It's so good to see you. I am so happy that you are here, Wendy, because if you weren't here, then I wouldn't get my coffee. And if I didn't get my coffee, I might turn into Mr. Cranky Pants. And I turned to the guy next to me and I said, am I right? And he checked himself a little bit there. And so I said, thank you, Wendy. Wendy looked at me and she smiled. And behind the smile, deep in her eyes, I could see tears. And I could tell that it had been that kind of morning. She passed me my coffee, and I said, thank you, and I walked off. But then this magical thing happened. As I walked off, I heard the gentleman behind me step to the counter and say, good morning, Wendy. I'm glad you're here. See, my friends, gratitude is infectious. It is contagious. When we broadcast that energy from our 5G network within us, other people feel it, and they spread it. And they can't help but get on. If it's good stuff, it's good stuff. Yes or yes. So growth is one of those things. Maintaining that growth mindset can be challenging when the real moments of growth happen, when they present themselves. And it's rarely in a classroom when you're ready for it. It normally happens in unexpected times, in unobtrusive kind of ways or unintentional ways. Now, I worked for Disney for a number of years. I did hundreds of shows with them on their cruise ships. And I would fly under their ships and I would do my show. And one night I was backstage getting ready for the show, and I heard this particular individual who was very belligerent, quite intoxicated, and opinionated about what he thought the show was going to be. Well, it was very different than what I was going to be doing. And I found myself getting nervous. This gentleman, I use that word very loosely, this gentleman had an effect on my mind based upon the words and the energy that he was speaking and projecting. And that thought went down to my body, and I had a physical response. My palms got sweaty, my knees got shaky, my heart was racing. All because of an individual that I had never even seen before. So in that moment, I searched for the opportunity for growth. And I have an idea to truly try something different than I'd ever done before. So the curtain opens, I come running out on stage. I look right at the dude. I say, "You, brother, what's your name?" Dude stands up, 6'7", 350 pounds, massive presence. He says, "My name's Big John." I say, "Brother, you are big, and I trust your name is John." "Big John, I've got a job for you. You look like a hype guy. You got a lot of power. I can feel it radiating off of you. Big John, if this audience isn't laughing and clapping and cheering and having a good time, I need you to hype them up. Big John, can you be my hype man?" "Yeah, boss. I got you." That show, my friends, we got 7 standing ovations. 7 standing ovations, all at the hands of Big John. And after the show, Big John approached me and reluctantly embraced me with a big, drunk, sweaty bear man hug. And as I was gasping for air, it hit me. Big John was the greatest gift I had ever received in my performance career. But he was also undeniably the greatest challenge I had ever faced in my performance career. But oftentimes our greatest gifts are our greatest challenges. Now, my question for you is, who is the Big John in your life? What is the Big John in your life? Has it been lingering around trying to hijack your show for a hot minute? Is it just showing up right now? But notice what that Big John is saying to you. And what would happen if you could accept that Big John and do something a little bit different with this moment, this opportunity, and reframe that challenge, because it might just be the greatest gift you've ever received. Now, grace. Come on now, space for grace. Anybody ever been cut off while driving your car? Anybody? Come on, 285, talk to me. I was driving one day, and I was pulling up and driving, and all of a sudden, this dude swerves around me, comes and cuts off right in front of me just to get to the red light. And I'm like, seriously? So I'm feeling that itchy finger that I never really flex that often. I'm feeling that F-bomb that I don't really get to drop, but I reserve it for special situations. And I change lanes and I pull up next to him, and I am getting ready because I got to let him know that what he did was not cool. And as soon as I pull up next to him, I'm about to roll my window down. And I look over, and it's this little old lady looking up over the steering wheel with those full-size sunglasses on, covering her whole face. And she looks over and she says, "Hi, sweetie." Talk about drinking a glass of humility. So I got checked in that moment, and I'm just laughing my head off. So next time you get cut off on the road, just imagine that it's that little old lady, and she's just doing the best that she can. Because we're all doing the best that we can today, in this moment that none of us have ever been in, at this exact place, at this exact time, is this exact version of ourselves before. But when we can extend that space for grace for others, we can also extend it to ourselves. So how might you extend that space for grace within yourself and for the people around you? All right, the giggles. Talk to me. Who likes laughing? It's some good stuff. Now, when we can summon the silly and we can laugh a little bit more, bring that levity to life, oh man, life just gets so much easier. Now, I believe that life happens in the detours. And I found myself back in 2005 touring in Switzerland as a ringmaster for a circus. Yeah, it's a heck of a conversation starter. So now one of the rules for improv, or when you're doing theatrical productions, is you have this game called yes and, right? And basically the rule is no matter what the producers throw at you, you say yes and. So they said, all right, you're going to be the ringmaster. In the theatrical setting, you're going to be the mayor of the town. I say, yes and. Well, as the mayor, we thought you could be the teacher of the town as well. Yes and. And you are going to be teaching some kids, some goats, and some donkeys. Long pause. Deep breath. Yes, and. So, rehearsal starts. I've got to, as the ringmaster, as the mayor, as the teacher, pass out these books to the students, which are goats. Well, they're fake books, and inside of those books, it's goat food. So it's actually a pretty brilliant concept. I pass them out to the tables. The goats jump up and they open the books and start to eat the food, which creates the illusion that they are reading. Very creative, right? Very creative. So everything's going good. And they say, in addition to this, you're going to hold this hoop for the goat named Priska to jump through. Now, my friends, I did not know that goats were capable of such things. And honestly, I still don't believe that they are capable of such things. So I've got to hold this hoop for the goat named Priska. Well, rehearsal is quite painful, but we power through it. We get to opening night. Things are going pretty well. The show's going great. All the sponsors are there. All of the investors are there. It's a big night. And I'm standing there, and it's Priska's big moment, and I'm holding that hoop, and Priska comes up, and she's just about to jump through that hoop, and then she decides it's time to relieve herself. So as Priska is doing her business on stage in front of thousands of people, you may be asking yourself, what might I be doing in this moment? I'm just summoning the silly. I got a big smile on my face, but inside I'm not happy. But then I notice something. I notice in the audience there is one particular gentleman who is losing it. I mean, he is laughing so hard, tears are running down his face. And then I look around and I notice many people are laughing hysterically. And laughter is contagious. And I felt that laughter. In this utterly ridiculous situation, I found a way to conjure up the comedy, to summon the silly, to bring that up and laugh. And I let it out, my friends. And my question for you is, next time you're in a challenging situation, well, first of all, remember, it could be worse. You could be somewhere in a little town in Switzerland holding a hoop for a goat named Priska. That's so true. Highly unlikely, but true. But ask yourself, what would happen if, in this moment, I chose to summon the silly? I chose to laugh a little bit, to bring a little bit of levity, to not take it so seriously. The fifth and final G in this 5G network, this good stuff network, is the gift. As I said, you are the gift. All of you are the gift. You have your own unique energetic signature that you bring, your own unique story, experiences, perspective on life that only you possess. Now, when my boys were a little bit younger, they would get in the car and drive down the driveway. I got to be honest, they would get in the minivan. I drive a minivan. It's a Honda Odyssey. It's an Odyssey. But it's great. I mean, you can put the seats down. You can pack so much stuff. You can open the doors and the kids get in and out and they don't fall. But it's a minivan. And I can't wait until those boys are 10 years old because bye-bye minivan and hello Tundra. I'm getting a truck. But I drive this minivan, and as my boys would get in and they would head off to school, they would roll their windows down and do this super cute thing. They would sing to me. They would say, "Bye, Dad, I love you, still blowing kisses." It was so cute. And they would back down the driveway and kind of go around the corner and a little bit softer. "Bye, Dad, I love you, still blowing kisses." And then they would get down and around and out of earshot. I couldn't hear him anymore, but you know what was in my head? "Bye, Dad, I love you, still blowing kisses." And that would stay in my head. It would remain in my head long after they had driven away. And the reason I share this is because who we think we are is one thing, but who we truly are is something else. In other words, what truly defines us is the music that is in the heads and hearts of others long after we have driven out of the driveway and the neighborhood. People will say, "You forget what they say, you forget what they do, but you never forget the way that you make them feel." That is our legacy. That is our signature, our significance. How you show up and how you enter a room and how you make people feel, that resonates long after you have left the room. So I hope today reminds you that you are the gift. Your music is important. Your lyrics are important. The way that you show up is important. You are the gift for someone else today, whether that's somebody in this room, whether that's somebody when you're getting in your car and driving. Somebody today needs your gift. Please be that gift and shine your light. We need it. Oh, come on, I'll pause for that. Let it out. Come on now. Yeah. So I hope that these lyrics have been a little bit of inspiration for you, to carry with you, to remind you that you matter, to remind you that you have this incredible power within you, this 5G network, this good stuff network of gratitude, of growth, of grace, of giggles, and gift, that you matter. Now, as I close out here with my short time with you, I'm going to play a little instrumental piece of music on this instrument over here, which is called a handpan. And as I play this, I invite you to simply reflect on those 5Gs and how you might exercise those 5Gs, how you might extend that gratitude today, extend the growth mindset today, to lean into the grace and the giggles and to be that gift. Thank you. Thank you.
Bronkar Lee, the Good Stuff Network. Thank you so much, Bronkar. Good stuff. Good stuff. Continue to take that deep breath. Open your mind. Unfold your heart. Relax your senses. Feel every part. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Breathe every breath. Release your cringe. Love without waiting, without waiting. Slowly unhinge. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound.
Let's take a breath as we know together. There's only one presence, one power, one source throughout the universe. This power is love, and it speaks to each and every one of us in so many ways. Through our breath, through our caring, through just a simple smile or a warm embrace. And what it reminds me is that this presence is within me, not outside of me, not in the clouds, not far away, but right here within, waiting to express as me, for me, and through me. This power, this presence, not only does it love me unconditionally, but it is just waiting to prove that love each and every moment. And as I awaken to that, allow that to come through, then my Godness shows through as well. I'm so grateful for being able to receive that, to know that, and to express that as often as I can every day. I'm so grateful to be around like-minded people who remind me of my magnificence and that I am a God being having a spiritual moment in a flawed body. But what I want you to hear right here and right now, and that it doesn't matter. All of us are loved. All of us are cared for, and all of us matter. I sink into that gratitude. I sink into that knowing. And if you're in agreement with me, and say that with me, it's so it is.
You can't stop waiting for love to find you. Look inside your heart. Love's already who you are. Amen. So lift up your voice. Let it be heard. Tell me your story, tell it to me. Don't leave out a word. 'Cause I think I have been there too. I'm a seeker just like you. You ain't got a thing to fear. Looks like love is growing here. So take your guard and let it down. Go deeper still until you come unwound. Unbound. Amen. So it is. Thank you, Tony.
Lighting the flames of faith. A call to service. We perform this ceremony to promote the universal consciousness of life, which acknowledges that all peoples, all faiths, all sentient beings come from the one great universal presence which we call Spirit. Fundamental to this truth is the unifying nature of all religious thought and experience, which we honor here today. We recognize the candle for the Tao, honoring the universal path of harmony and equilibrium, the natural way. We recognize the candle for the shamanic traditions, honoring the beliefs and practices of all indigenous people, the way of the primal spirituality. We recognize the candle for Hinduism, honoring the path of knowledge, action, and devotion. We recognize the candle for Judaism, honoring the ethical path of living by sacred law. We recognize the candle for all forms of Buddhism, honoring the Four Noble Truths and the path of compassion. We recognize the candle for all forms of Christianity, honoring the Christ consciousness as the path of love. We recognize the candle for all forms of Islam, honoring the path of submission to the will of God as the highest calling. we recognize the candle for the universalistic religion of Baha'i, honoring the path of unity and peace. We recognize the candle for all forms of new thought, honoring the metaphysical path of mental healing through the practice of universal spiritual principles. As we recognize the healing candle, please put silently in the light the name of anyone you wish to experience the healing flame of God's eternal love.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be with you today. Are you having a good day? Yes. Good, happy New Year? Yes. Yeah, amen. Welcome to Spiritual Living Center of Atlanta. I'm David Alexander, spiritual director here. My pronouns are he, his. I want to welcome you into this space. Can we give Bronkar Lee some more love for the wonderful presentation? And thank you, Penelope, for beautiful, always anchoring us in truth. And Tony, thank you so much. We do our Flames of Faith the first Sunday of every month. We have our potluck a little bit later on. It's a good day to be together. Amen? Yeah. I got an exciting series to kick off today. We're doing Back to the Basics. Now, this is my copy of the Science of Mind text. This is the one I got in 1990-something when I first started studying formally in classes this teaching, and took my first foundations class in 96, I think. And so anyway, that's why you see that up here. It's seen some better days, but it's yet holding on. And so in the old days in our New Thought churches, we would do what they call Back to Basics every January, or January topics, the first 4 chapters of the Science of Mind. And I haven't done it in a number of years, and I thought it'd be good to kind of kick off this year with that. So that's what we're going to do. The affirmation today is this, and we're going to use it throughout this month as kind of a way of anchoring ourselves in not only this series, but also for the entire year, just as to kind of launch us into that space. And so it says this: I declare 2024 as the year of my greatest good. Harmony, wholeness, health, and prosperity flow in every direction. What comes to bless me comes to bless all, for I am one with the allness of God. I receive it, I accept it, I am it. Not because I say it is so, but because it says that I am so, and so it is. So let's begin. Let's do that together. I'll give you one line at a time. You can repeat after me, and then we'll do it a third time all together. Take a deep breath. I declare 2024 as the year of my greatest good. Harmony, wholeness, health, and prosperity flow in every direction. What comes to bless me comes to bless all, for I am one with the allness of God. I receive it. I accept it. I am it. Not because I say it is so, but because it says that I am so. And so it is. Oh, deep breath in. We'll do it one more time all together with one voice. I declare 2024 as the year of my greatest good. Harmony, wholeness, health, and prosperity flow in every direction. What comes to bless me comes to bless all, for I am one with the allness of God. I receive it. I accept it. I am it. Not because I say it so, but because it says that I am so. And so it is. All right, give yourselves a hand. Yeah, feel into that. You can take that, put in your own qualities of God, wholeness, harmony, put in your own that work for you for this year, that are part of your words and your declaration, and work with that this month. But those are the ones that came to me as I was preparing for today. So I invite you to receive it as such. We're just going to dive right in because we've already received so much in our time together. And we're going to be changing things up a little bit in our service format. You'll see that next week. And what do we need to say about that? Don't be late. That's what we want to say. That's what we want to say. Don't be late. I'll be starting a little bit closer to 3 o'clock, the message portion. So there's that to look forward to. But you get used to it. We'll change it up a little bit. For today, our tools for today, the spiritual principle of consciousness. We're going to be looking throughout this January series back to the basics. Just what is this spiritual idea called consciousness? The spiritual law today, that I want to look at in the first chapter of Science Mind Text is the law of freedom. And the spiritual practice is that of listening. Just listening to our own intuition, our own internal guidance, listening to what we know to be true. Ernest Holmes wrote a lot of things. His writing career started in 1916, 1917. He published his first book, continued till his death in 1960. And we're still republishing and stuff that's been out of print to this day. But he's sharing in that period his insights and spiritual wisdom and things that he gained from teachers that he studied with and the things that his meditation spiritual practice led him to. But we want to also have a spiritual practice of listening to what spirit, intuition, guidance is telling us. What is our truth? What is your truth? What's working for you? How is it appearing for you? This is not a Bible. This is not. It's not even a sacred text. It's a text that we use because the founder of our particular tradition of New Thought wrote it. But we use it as a guide into our own internal wisdom and knowledge. Is that clear? Yeah, so listening, the spiritual practice, listening, listen for what works for you. I think that's really, really important. I think the other thing that's important that we must do is sort of just be aware. One of the reasons I really wanted to do this series this year, as I said, I don't do it every year, is because I think we are leaning into, and you can see evidence of it kind of all over the place, kind of chaotic times. I think this year, if we just can tell the truth, can we tell the truth for a minute? It's going to be a bumpy year with the election happening and other things happening. Most of us I think all of us are marked safe from the Cat Williams interview this morning. There's a few people that know what I'm talking about, but if that went over your head, don't worry about it. But it's going to be a year of exposing, telling truth, and some stuff's going to be happening. And I'm not calling any of that good or bad or right or wrong, just noticing that that's kind of just what I'm seeing from my perspective. And therefore, I think it's a year for us to be grounded, to be really sure of who we are, what we believe, what our principles are, as individuals and also as a community. You may not know that this morning, as the Unitarian service was unfolding here, there were protesters on the sidewalk. Everybody was safe, everything was fine, but they were basically religious zealots with some Jesus is Lord signs and whatnot. The Unitarians responded appropriately. They brought out their signs and put them in the yard and the lawn there. Everything's fine. They obviously don't know that we meet in the afternoon, or maybe they'd still be there, but that's when New Thought is the best kept secret. I don't know whether I'm happy about that or not, that they left, I think they should have stuck around. But anyway, but I say that to say that, right, stuff is coming up in the consciousness. And when the turbulence, gets bumpy, people on both sides, so whatever we want to say the side is or whatever the spectrum is, can get riled up very easily. And it's important for us to be anchored while that is happening. right? To be grounded. So really encourage you in your own way, in your own spiritual practice, your food, your diet, your, just everything about. And so hopefully this series is a contribution to that grounding. Is that clear? Yeah, so that's kind of my intention for this time. The second thing that I think is really important before we dive right into it is to just trying to contextualize where this comes from. So Ernest Holmes, as I said, this collection of writings that we call the Science of Mind text, first published in 1927, re-edited in the format that we have now in 1938, was not the first book that he wrote. He'd been writing for a decade or so by that particular time. The movement has grown around him. But he's kind of a latecomer in broad New Thought history. So very quickly, if you don't know New Thought history, we'll just give you a brief overview. It had been around for at least 60 years or more by the time he comes on to the scene, coming out of the Transcendentalist movement in the late 1800s, and Quimby and his studies in New England, and Emerson and Mary Baker Eddy with Christian Science, kind of the first big movement to come out of this mind-healing idea. And then many branches that break off of that, including most predominantly Emma Curtis Hopkins, goes to Chicago, opens a school, theological school, teaches thousands of students who spread all over the country, from Denver to San Francisco to Los Angeles to New Orleans, opening New Thought churches or spiritual study groups of various kinds, each with their own take on this idea of spiritual truth. Ernest Holmes studies from Emma Curtis Hopkins in the late 20s, kind of the last of the students that she takes on, and then articulates his own version of this truth, and off we go from there. So that's just very brief, but all of that is, there was a sort of this time period from the late 1800s and the early 1900s, there is a question in the collective consciousness which is about, what is going to be the articulator of the regulative ideas of our lives, right? Is it going to be religion? Is it the voice of religion, what we believe about God and the afterlife and this life and all of that kind of thing, and our relationship to that? Is it going to be science, right? You think about, penicillin wasn't created until 1927, same year the textbook first came out, right? So in the 1860s, there's a reason why so many people were going to Quimby, who was doing healing work one-on-one, is because they weren't getting results from Western medicine, because Western medicine wasn't certainly what we think of it today. So contextually, there's this idea of science and new frontiers of both psychology and mental science emerging at that time. Is that where we're going to kind of get our regulative ideas? And people are leaving church. And Emerson, he was a Unitarian, and then he left and said, "No, that's not quite it," And then they took him back later, and they made up with each other. But that's another sermon for another day, right? Or is it philosophy? Right, the early days of psychology were, so religion, science, and philosophy were kind of these things that were like, well, what's going to be the thing that articulates who we are as a species? And we're talking particularly Western consciousness in America, in this burgeoning country at that particular time. So metaphysics, New Thought comes along to say, Ernest Holmes is a typical New Thought answer to this idea of, well, is it going to be the voice of religion? Is it going to be the voice of science? Is it going to be the voice of philosophy? You always know a great metaphysician when you ask a multiple choice question, and the answer is yes. All right? Like Bronkar was doing earlier, yes or yes, right? So Ernest Holmes saw this, and he said, well, yes. The answer is yes. It's religion, it's science, it's philosophy, it's all of that kind of woven together, right? And so there was an effort to kind of, with these writings and with these teachings, to break down barriers and say, maybe we have some old ideas that aren't working for us about God. Maybe we have some new ideas, some new things about science, and in terms of the scientific approach and the freedom to explore and to be inquisitive and look for solutions and answers. Maybe those can guide us a little bit. Maybe there's some things that are about philosophy and the mental aspect of our connection that also can guide us a little bit. Maybe those things can work together. Maybe they're not in competition with each other. And so that's kind of the space out of which these teachings come. And I think that that's all of the New Thought contributors, the ones that come before Ernest Holmes, the ones that come after, come by that particular quest, if you will, honestly. However, I think it's very important to contextualize the idea that what they stumble upon, they call this kind of idea of a universal truth. You've probably heard that before, universal truths, right? And I believe that they were sincere in their understanding that there was something bigger than them. However, what gets lost sometimes when we only speak of it in that way is that, A, we think these particularly old white men and women of the early New Thought movement are the articulators or originators of these ideas. And as I said, I think they came to them pretty honestly, but we do a disservice when we don't take a step back and say, well, where else was this in the collective consciousness, in humanity, before that? And what we always find is that it existed before, right? It was in Native American spirituality, in first-person spirituality, in African spirituality, in the Greek philosophies. And Holmes acknowledges the Greek philosophies and the Vedic hymns and Hindu scriptures and other things as sources of inspiration to him, as do the Fillmores and the Unity movement, but not enough. I want to say that they acknowledge some of that sourcing, but certainly not in the reference way that we would do today. So I think that's important, right? Because I'm going to talk a lot in the next couple of weeks about, well, on this page it says this, and on that page it says that. Not because it came from here, but because Holmes did have, I think, a unique gift to synthesize and bring together and articulate in a new era, in a new voice, in a way that people could hear it. Does that make sense? It's the same as every time I read a Wayne Dyer book, right? Like I love Wayne Dyer, right? Great, absolutely great author, great things to say. He's got a great way of saying it. He didn't come up with any of it. I'm just going to tell you right now. You go to the glossary, and there's a lot of, there's some references that he gives, some sources, but there's a lot that he leaves out. I mean, he actually lifts some titles from Ernest Holmes, as a matter of fact. Change your thinking, change your life, the different things like that he just pure picks up directly from. But Wayne Dyer had a unique way of presenting and a unique voice that reached a new audience, and so he had that gift. So I think it's important to contextualize these things as we move forward. So with all of that said, should we dive in? Great, 3 of you are ready. That's fantastic. The rest of you are hungry. I know. There's a potluck down the hallway. We'll get there. We'll get through it quickly. Ernest Holmes said this. He said, our future, when he was talking about our spiritual philosophy as it grew into a movement, he said, most churches are cult of personalities. He said, but I would have us be a church of principles. Our church is not a building, although it is a nice one. Our church is not an eloquent preacher, although that is good too. But then he said, for our future is a matter of one person who has come to know what God is, and then another, and then another. Right? Our future is a matter of one person who has come to know what God is. And so to know what God is that idea of getting back to the basics. That is sort of the heart of the quest that drove him as a young boy, growing up in a family of 9 children, and walking several miles every Sunday to their family church. And hearing these ideas, he was very inquisitive. They called him the eternal question mark. That was their nickname for a young Ernest, the eternal question mark, because he was always asking why, right? Why? Well, why this? Why that? Why? And so to know what God is, that's getting back to the basics. This comes from page 26 in the Science of Mind. The study of Science of Mind is the study of first cause, spirit, mind, or that invisible essence, that ultimate stuff and intelligence from which everything comes. the power back of all creation, the thing itself. So that's the name of today's sermon and the first chapter in the text, the thing itself. The thing itself, the way it works, what it does, and how to use it. So the thing itself, Ernest Holmes wanted to start this conversation with, let's articulate what this thing is that we're talking about. When we say consciousness, when we say mind, when we're approaching, whether it's through the religious lens or the scientific lens or the philosophy lens, or we're blending all of those lenses together and finding new language and new ways of speaking about it. What is this thing? This intelligence, this essence, this thing that has been called God, this thing that has been called energy. What is it, right? And here's what's really important. Ernest Holmes is very clear. He says, that this thing is not what we think it is or what we label it to be, right? That those are just the labels that we put on it. That's why the thing itself was really important, right? That there's an it beyond the finger that's pointing to it. And that religion is the hand, the finger that's pointing to it. And this religion points to it this particular way, and this religion points to it this particular way, and this religion points to it, and science points to it this particular way, and but it's all pointing to this something else. That's why he starts off the very first line in the text. He says, "We all look forward to the day when religion and science shall walk hand in hand, through the visible to the invisible. Science knows nothing of opinion, but recognizes a government of laws whose principles are universal. And yet, any scientist who refuses to accept intangible values has no adequate basis for the values which he, I'll add she, they, have already discovered," right? We all look forward to the day when religion and science shall. So already he's starting off, the very first line. Like, this is not about, this or the other. It's about when these things walk hand in hand, what do we discover about who we are? Revelation must be kept faith with reason, religion with law, while intuition is ever spreading its wings for greater flight. Let me say that again. Revelation must keep faith with reason. Faith with reason. You see how he's bridging these things? Faith with reason, religion with law, while intuition is ever spreading its wings for greater flight. And science must justify the faith in the invisible. So that's just the first paragraph. In the first paragraph, he's woven all of these things together and saying, let's take all of those benefits. Let's take all of those angles and study this thing itself, which exists beyond all of that. And so we know from religious language, there's, in the beginning, right? And in the beginning, the Word was God, and the Word was perfect, and the Word was with God, etc. That, the book of John starts all over and says that stuff all over again from Genesis, but in a new way. And in many ways, New Thought is saying, this is another chapter. Let's start again and articulate it in a new way. And in this new way, where religion and science and philosophy all blend itself together, we come up with these beautiful articulations that say things like, there's a fundamental perfect power back of all things, a perfect peace, a perfect principle at the heart of life, this universal wholeness. And then what I say is that the thing itself wanted to know itself, and so it manifested all of creation. The Declaration of Principles, Ernest Holmes would say, the thing itself is in and through all of creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. Meaning what? Meaning it is the source from which all things come, but everything that we see does not contain the allness of God. There's something yet even more behind that. Are you following with me so far? So there's this infinite. That's why he says, ultimate stuff. I love it when Ernest Holmes, who was so big with words, and this text could be a whole lot smaller if he would just simplify things, right? Because he repeated himself over and over and over again and using big words. But even so, even with the big intellect and big vocabulary, sometimes it just comes down to this ultimate stuff right? And he's typing it out, and he's like, oh, no, capitalize stuff. It's big stuff, right? It's important stuff. This ultimate stuff, this intelligence from which everything comes, this substance, this invisible essence and energy. And so we are made in the image and likeness of this stuff. And this stuff, this ultimate intelligence in the universe that is everywhere present, has really only one intention, and that is, A, to express itself, or as the diversity of creation, and then to experience itself through its creation. So, A, to express itself as the diversity of expression that we see, as you, as me, as everything around us, and then to experience it, the fullness of itself in that creation, right? And so it becomes really important then if our future, as he said, is about one who comes to know this, comes to know the relationship with this thing itself, then what is it that we know about God, right? Last month I shared this quote from Ernest Holmes: humans will deliver themselves from sickness and trouble in the exact proportion to their discovery of themselves and their true relationship with the whole, or to the whole. Humans will deliver themselves from sickness and trouble in exact proportion to their discovery of themselves and their true relationship to the whole. So this is that true relationship to the whole, is that relationship to the thing itself. It's what do you know about you and about this thing that we like to call God, but it's a really limiting word, right? To the degree that that relationship is known, is understood, is practiced, is comprehended and fully embodied, then you're liberated from yourself, right? From the world of thoughts and noise chatter and the things happening around you and what he said and she said and what they said before and how they said it has to be. But there's something inside of you that says, no, I got this, right? I got this relationship. I have this intuition and understanding about who I am and my relationship to the whole. Because the world is filled with lots of chatter. Have you noticed? Right? Lots of chatter about what God is, and that's where we get ourselves in so much trouble. It's why we think we know so much about God, because we're thinking about our relationship in all these different ways, right? Is God the one? Is God the many? Is God the Father? Is God the Son? Is God the goddess? Is God the still small voice within us? Is God the judge on the throne? Is God the booming voice and the white beard? Is God the on the throne in the clouds of heaven? Is God in the child that is going without food, or the animal that's suffering in the street, or right? What is it? And whatever it is that however we answer those questions, what we discover then is that God is actually our relationship with the thing itself. See, you missed that. Right? God is our relationship with the thing itself. It's not the thing itself. God is just the name that is given to your understanding. So in AA they say the God of your understanding. Right? You know, AA and New Thought have a very close relationship in origin and in sourcing to each other, going back to Emma Curtis Hopkins' sermon for another day. But that phrase, God of your understanding, because God is not some entity far off away from you that has all this description that is neatly packaged and tightly bound in this box, and it just is that, like that. No, that's the thing itself. But whatever is your relationship between that, your perception, your relationship, your conscious understanding or unconscious understanding, and how you connect with that through your consciousness, that thing, that relationship is what God is to you. And that's why your God and somebody else's God is different. because they have a different relationship. And you have a different relationship. And this religion and this culture, they have a different relationship. Is that how can there be one God but all these different ways of expressing? How could there be one God and all these different ways of praying? How could there be one God and all these different ways of celebrating and articulating and all of these different things? Because each one of those things are the relationship that particular group of people have to their understanding of the thing itself. And the thing itself is bigger than all of it. That making sense? Yeah? And so, Ernest Holmes wanted to make it really clear right up front, right? That this thing, he says, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create, I'm going to gender neutralize the language here, to create us in bondage and leave us bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. To suppose that God could make humanity as an individual without leaving us to discover ourselves would be to suppose an impossibility. Individuality must be spontaneous. It can never really be automatic. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of humanity. But like the prodigal son, we must wake up to discover this for ourselves. And then later he says, the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every living soul. All instinctively feel this. Truth points to the freedom under law. And thus the inherent nature of humanity is forever seeking to express itself in terms of freedom. I haven't even turned the page yet. That's just the first. And there's a lot of empty space at the top of the first page, right? That's the second page there, right? So right from the bat, the first thing he wants you to know is that religion, science, and philosophy are all working together. We're looking through the lens of all of those things kind of in a combined way. And then the thing that we must know about this creative intelligence is that it has set us free to discover ourselves, and that the desire of that intelligence, the desire of that thing itself is for freedom. The divine plan is one of freedom, liberation, for us to, as we know ourselves, we become free. That's what I said earlier. As you know yourself, then you become free even from yourself, from your thoughts, your doubts, your thinking small or not good enough, or all the programming that has come into your subconscious mind through your parenting, your upbringing, society, etc. And we later, as we get into the philosophy, as we go further down, you learn that all of those things that exist in the subconscious mind are there because somebody has put them there, right? And that collectively, there's a collective subconscious, and so we experience things like racism and homophobia and transphobia and degradation of humanity and human dignity in all kinds of manners and ways, and it's in the collective subconscious because we have thought in a limiting way. We've been set free to think whatever we want to think. But however we use our intelligence to connect with that thing which is bigger and always beyond whatever it is, whatever way we can possibly articulate it, whatever label we could possibly give it, however we decide to use that in creative intelligence, it will respond by corresponding to the sum total of our thoughts, attitudes, and beliefs and produce for us exactly what we've thought into it. So we have thought, that person's less than me. We have thought that person doesn't deserve the same salary. We have thought those people don't deserve these rights. We have thought da-da-da-da-da, right? And so those things are in the collective consciousness. They're not God ordained. What Ernest Holmes wanted to establish right up front on the first page. Bondage is not God ordained. None of that comes from God. It's in the collective experience because humanity has put it there. But the moment we understand what our relationship is and the creative power that we have, then the plan, that's why I love this phrasing, the divine plan. It's the only place Holmes and New Thought in general, we don't tend to believe in like predestiny or, there's something scripted out before we experience it or anything like that. It's the only place he uses this particular phrasing, the divine plan. right? So I want to know what the plan is for my life. Well, that's between you and your consciousness. You get to make that up. There is no pre-written, predestined thing about what is the plan for your life. You get to make that. You're the author. But he does say that there is a divine plan. And that divine plan is freedom. That's the birthright of every living soul. Right there. Every living soul, everyone is on a path of liberation. And when we understand that, then we become liberators to that plan. We become the emancipators to that plan. We become ones who, I understand my own divinity. I understand that God wants me to be free. Why? Because God is free. And God wants to experience itself as me. And so God doesn't want me to be limited by thoughts of lack and limitation. God doesn't want me to be limited by doubt and superstition. God doesn't want me God wants me to think highly of myself and to express that and have it come out as my gifts and talents and treasures and all of the things that I can contribute to the planet, and to do so in a way in which I feel good about who I am and what I'm here to do. And as I do that, I'm experiencing the freedom and liberation. And as I continue to do that, I go, you know what I'm doing here, what Bronkar is doing in the world, that's uniquely God through him. What I'm doing is uniquely God through me, but it's not special in the sense that it's wholly held unto that individual. It is a demonstration of a principle. And so it's a universal expression of liberation, you see. So the freedom that I'm experiencing and doing what I'm been called to do, the experience that anybody that we admire, and we say, oh, those are the people out there that are doing it. Those are the ones who are, I want to be just like that, because they're liberated and they're experiencing themselves as I would want to experience myself. They are using a universal principle. Their freedom is your freedom, because we're all connected. The divine plan is one of freedom. So when we really get that, then we wake up and then we say, now, what can I do? Not just to experience my good today, but what can I do to be a liberating presence on the planet for other people? How can I help set other people free? Right? And that can begin to inform your voting, your shopping, your being and doing in the world, right? In ways that make you an articulator of the freedom through your values and choices that you make. Am I making sense? Yes. All right, let me wrap it up, because I know we're hungry. All right, this is the thing itself. He says, let us briefly recapitulate. There is that which within each and every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness. And insofar as it operates, it is God. That is the meaning of the word Emmanuel, the meaning of the word Christ. That within us which partakes of the divine nature of being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. It reacts to us according to our beliefs in it, and it is an immutable law, subject to the use of the least among us. No respecter of persons, it cannot be bound. Our soul will never change or violate its own nature. All the denying of it will never change it. All the affirming of it will never make it more than what it already is. But since it is what it is, and it works the way it works, it appears to each through our belief. It is done to us as we believe. We will say then that this spirit in man or in humanity is one with God. But the great law of the universe is this: if we are really one with the whole, we must be one with the law of the whole, as well as one with the spirit of the whole. So one with the divine, one with the law of the divine, and one with the spirit of the divine, if you will. If we try to find something difficult to grasp, then we shall never really grasp it, because we shall always think that it is incomprehensible. The mind which we discover within is the mind that governs everything. This is the thing itself, and we should recognize its simplicity. That's how he ends the chapter. I love that. We should recognize, after he waxes on eloquently using all of these big words, and it says, and we should recognize its simplicity, right? Isn't it so simple? Don't you just get it now? Like, oh, thanks, Ernest, I appreciate that. Be classes for the next 20 years of my life trying to unpack and understand, but we should recognize its simplicity. But what he's saying is this, you already know this. It's already within you. You already know that you have a relationship with a thing that is greater than you are. And the more you spend time cultivating that relationship, and if you use this particular philosophy, then great. If you use another philosophy, you use another modality, if you use music or yoga or Hindu teaching or Christian teaching or Buddhist teaching or Jewish teaching, you use the Kabbalah, if you use whatever it is that you use, all of those things are tools that you're using to unpack your own relationship with the thing that's within you and that thing which is greater than you. And the degree that you understand that relationship sets you on a path of liberation to experience more joy, more freedom, more love, more beauty, more wholeness, more health, more connection, more contribution. And that divine path will lead you to help liberate others because you realize that you're not alone and that which you are using is part of a universal presence. Feel into that. Breathe into that. This is the thing itself. This is the essence of our relationship with the divine. It's that which humanity has always eternally been on a quest to understand and will continue to eternally be on a quest to understand. You and I are just lucky enough to live in this age where we can lean on the wisdom of those that have come before us and we can continue to cultivate our own intuition of our own understanding. And we have this great community in which to do it together. So for this and so much more, and just the beginning of this journey into the basic understandings of who we are and what we're here to be and do about, I give thanks and I let it be, and so it is. Thank you. Peace and blessings. Thank you. Now, I did skip to the last page for that last quote, but other than that, I didn't even turn the page. I just want you to know there's a few pages in between. But next week, we'll go on to chapter 2 and unpack from there. This is our time for offerings. I'm so grateful that you are here today experiencing spiritual community, experiencing the music and the love and the everything that we are, and it doesn't happen by accident. It happens through divine intention, and that divine intention is directed through our gifts, through the ways that we show up and say, yes, I'll support a place like this. I'll support a message like this. I'll support music and creativity and the teaching. You're going to hear in just a minute through the announcements, all of the wonderful opportunities that we have for you beginning this year and this month, kicking off. And all of it's made possible because we give generously to support. This community is upheld for 44, going on 45 years. Through pledges and supporters, people just like you, and you make it possible for somebody else to join and be part of that support by holding the space. I always like to say you're making it possible for the seat next to you to be filled by someone for the very first time because your gift kept that space open for that possibility. So with that, I just invite you to go within and just discern what is yours to do today, whether it's part of your monthly giving or something above and beyond that, or giving for the first time. All of it is deeply appreciated. And we have all these wonderful ways, text, the QR code, the website, etc., including cash and checks in our receptacles by both doors and exits here. You can do that on the way out or stand up at any point and contribute that way. So with all of that, we hold these gifts in our hands with deep gratitude, and we bless it with these words. I live in a universe of abundance. As I freely and joyfully give, I join in the divine flow, and all that I share with life returns to me multiplied. And so it is.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mally Lapete. My pronouns are she and her, and I gladly serve on the creative arts team here at SLCA. Please listen closely as our menu options have changed. We have so many great opportunities to connect, grow, serve, and give at SLCA. For more information about today's announcements and other opportunities, scan our QR code found on your monitor. Ian Faulkner, who is here today with us, as usual, is back next week, January 14th, Sunday, with the power of scripting at 5 p.m. Ian wants us to know that we can create the life we desire through the power of you and your divine purpose. You deserve the world and beyond, and he's going to help us. Join us in person or online for The Gathering, January 16th, which is a forum to learn about science of mind and spirit and metaphysical principles and their relevance to our lives today. This 2-hour workshop will provide science of mind principles and how to apply those principles to our everyday lives. I'll give you some love over here. Starting January 17th, please join Reverend Dr. David Alexander for a 5-week accredited course, Spiritual Principles and Practices. This is an immersive course that invites students to explore the depths of their inner spirituality and discover the transformative power of the science of mind principles. Do you have curiosity about spirituality practices or content, but have few opportunities to discuss with like-minded people? True. Well, I do. On January 21st, after service, we will have a discussion group exploring topics that may be too woo-woo for your friends and family. You know who I'm talking about. Heck, it could be you. You may not understand something and you're like just dying to ask. Come check it out and let's talk about it with practitioner Tony Jenkins, who is with us today. Well, all practitioners who are available for prayer this afternoon, please make yourselves known in person and in the online chat now to be recognized. Thank you. We welcome each of you in need of prayer to remain in the room or reach out to a practitioner online for one-on-one prayer with a licensed practitioner. In-person practitioners will be sitting in chairs on the sides of the sanctuary following service today. Thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to chowing down with you and visiting in the social hall for our monthly potluck down there. You belong.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. Let's close out. Shall we sing together? Come on, sing with me. Up on your feet, yes. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We envision a world that works for everyone and for all of creation. We see all people, all beings as expressions of God. We see a world that works for everyone. We see a world that works for everyone. Yes, we do. We see a world that works for everyone. 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 See you downstairs, everybody. Have a great weekend.